Hi.
Hello. Ray Franz continues with the responses he's received and been overwhelmed by since he wrote and published Crisis of Conscience. Still others who wrote had no association whatever with Jehovah's Witnesses, but they were experiencing a similar struggle of conscience with regard to their own religion. Typical of several such letters is this one from a couple in California. Quote, "My wife and I recently picked up a copy of your Crisis of Conscience. We were so thrilled to discover it. Thank you for writing with grace and dignity in a field so often characterized by sensationalism and bitterness. Your experience had a particular poignancy for us. We recently left the church of our heritage, the Mormon Church, in order to worship the Father in spirit and truth, unencumbered by human commands and teachings. We found much that was familiar in your story. Again, we thank you for your courageous witness to the graciousness of God in your life. May He keep you in the shelter of His healing wings." And then Ray goes on, I do not feel that what I wrote represents any particular act of courage. I wrote the book because I felt that people had a right to know things that were otherwise inaccessible to them. What brings the greatest satisfaction in all the many hundreds of communications are those expressions that indicate the persons having drawn closer to their Heavenly Father and His Son, of having their faith and confidence renewed and strengthened. But I also find particularly rewarding the comments of many that they found a freedom from bitterness and malice in what was written. I hold no such feelings toward Jehovah's Witnesses, and I am happy if what I wrote does not convey those sentiments. Letters received in which people lash out at the movement, its leaders or its members, or give vent to ridicule and sarcasm bring me no pleasure whatsoever.
I believe that those who think it is the individual persons in the organization or its leaders who are the true danger are missing the point. I lived among the people themselves for nearly 60 years, and I have no hesitation in saying that they are as sincere in their beliefs as people of any other religion. I know personally the members of the governing body, and while I cannot say it of all, I know many to be basically kind, honest persons who are simply doing what they believe is expected of them, what has been done traditionally in the past. They are the heirs of the legacy of that past. In their minds, the organization is indistinguishable and inseparable from God and Christ. Nonetheless, error is being presented as truth. Actions are taken that are a grave misrepresentation and distortion of the teachings and life course of God's Son. While those involved cannot help but bear, each one, a measure of responsibility, nonetheless, they themselves are not the fundamental source of the problem. Rather than the people themselves, it is instead the beliefs and concepts that are the real problem, the true danger. They form the primary source from which the erroneous teachings, wrong attitudes, and harsh acts proceed.
Yes, indeed. Beliefs and concepts he blames. I would underline that sentence again. In their minds, the organization, he has the organization in quotation marks, is indistinguishable and inseparable from God and Christ. So it's as if the Watchtower has constructed its own trinity, whereas the unforgivable sin is now criticism, virtually blasphemy of org.
Yes, yeah.
You can criticize or at least doubt doctrines about Christ and God, but not the official pronouncements of org.
They've blended the organization and God into one entity.
All kinds of persons, Ray says, have entered the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses for all kinds of reasons. And all kinds of persons, actually hundreds of thousands, have left for all kinds of reasons. Some have left, as one former witness put it, for all the wrong reasons, while the course they take thereafter may give at least some indication of the motivation that led to the departure. This is not necessarily a sure guide. Many go through a period of transition marked by uncertainty, even of doubting everything, due to having suffered a severe disillusionment. They are temporarily adrift, and only when they have passed through this stage can their course give any clear indication of what their heart motivation has been. One thing seems evident, however, and that is that mere departure from a religious system under the conviction that it contains serious falsehood does not of itself guarantee freedom. Simply to see error is in many cases not enough, unless one can see why he or she once believed that error, and what was false in the method of argumentation that led one to believe. No great progress is attained. No solid basis for enduring Christian freedom is established. A person could easily abandon one system that proved erroneous, and then quickly be taken in by another that likewise promulgates error which may be doctrinally quite different, yet which is often supported by the very same kind of false argumentation and reasoning employed by the previous system.
Yeah, I do think there's a period of disillusionment where you just give up on everything. So I think his thinking here is you need to learn how to think. So I'll continue to read. Many of Jehovah's Witnesses have become disillusioned by teachings or predictions that proved false. Others by the rigidity of certain policies or by the pressure for engaging in a constant treadmill of organizationally programmed activity that brings little of genuine spiritual uplift. What is needed is to see the root cause of such fallacies, of the authoritarian nature of the policies, or of the futility of such programmed works. I believe that without an understanding of the scriptural teachings involved, one cannot see clearly that root cause, and cannot see that there is something better and more genuine open to them. Unfortunately, the average witness has never been aided to develop a good personal understanding of the scriptures. As an organization member, there was little encouragement to use his or her thinking powers, other than to accept and, in effect, to commit to memory whatever information was supplied by the organization, submitting almost automatically to its directives. Questions, one of the mind's most powerful tools, were negatively portrayed as evidence of lack of faith, a sign of disrespect for God's approved channel of communication. There is yet another very significant side to the matter. Many persons seek only a negative freedom. They seek to be free from something, to be free from feeling compelled to profess belief in certain teachings, to perform certain activities, or conform to certain policies, all imposed by ecclesiastical authority.
Of itself, that kind of freedom may be a proper goal, desirable, bringing release from oppressive restraints and from domination of mind and heart by men in a way which is clearly unchristian. But even so, by itself, this release does not bring Christian freedom. For Christian freedom primarily implies a positive freedom, not merely a freedom from something, but a freedom to something. It is the freedom not simply of not doing, but of doing, as well as of being, as to what we are in heart and mind as an individual person. Rather than by this mere step of leaving a religious system viewed as false, it is by what we do with our lives after separating from that system that we demonstrate whether true freedom has actually been gained. What follows in this book will consider these issues and how they apply. While obviously directed primarily to persons with a background among Jehovah's Witnesses, the underlying principles involved are applicable in any religious setting. It is hoped that the information will be of aid to those who, out of love for truth and out of concern to be pleasing to God, are weighing the rightness of giving unquestioning loyalty to a religious organization. Its aim is to contribute in some measure to confidence in God's power to sustain us through whatever crises our holding to personal integrity may bring, and help open up wider spiritual horizons and a more rewarding and satisfying life in service to our Creator, to our Master, God's Son, and to our fellow humans.
That's the end of that forward. So the question that hopefully we'll be answering in future, or Ray will be answering in future videos, is, are you free when you leave Jehovah's Witnesses?